So here is how depression shows up in your mind and in your body. I tend to always see depression as an experience, and in this experience it is characterized by thinking, some features in emotions, and some features in behavior. Now, typically when we are experiencing depression, we realize that we have this pervasive negative thinking. Thinking becomes so dark and heavy, such as I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, I'm a loser. And it could also have, in terms of the system of emotion, here we tend to always think that depression could always be about sadness. No, it could also come in pictures and feelings such as worthlessness, insignificant, hopeless, meaningless, purposelessness. Those are kind of symptoms that play out within the system of emotion. Now, here's where it becomes very interesting. We could always tend to notice the behavior before the thinking or the emotion. We could realize that we are shutting down, withdrawing, isolating, procrastinating, refusing to connect to other people. Symptoms within the behavioral system are often used to measure the impact of depression, because then that's when we realize that we are losing our executive function and we start to lose that sense of positive reward. We don't tend to enjoy what we normally enjoyed before now. When we start having marked loss of executive functions, that's when we start seeing the severe depression or maybe clinical depression, because now you're shutting down, you can't eat, you're withdrawing, you are not doing what you normally do anymore. You can even get to the point of experiencing homelessness. And so this is where we see the marked impact of depression. Now, you may not feel sad, but you still be depressed, and that's very possible. Maybe because you're masking, trying to put up a front or distracting. And so if your coping strategy or your behavior is handling any of this emotion, then one may not see the impact of what you're going through. The other interesting thing about the behavioral system is understanding that the function of behavior within the depressive cycle or experience is really to help us in eradicating the emotion. Behaviors such as shutting down, isolating is an attempt for us to deal with this feeling of worthlessness. But what we don't realize most of the time is that this behavior by themselves, reinforce those negative emotions. So what you want to do in a phase of a depressive spiral is to ask yourself, the behavior that you are adopting, is that making you feel better or be better? Because sometimes the behavior that we are adopting is just temporarily making us feel better at the expense of making us be better. The caveat is that we start to move into the spectrum of behaviors that will make us be better and not just to feel better. So if you want to understand the symptoms of depression, think about it in different systems. That way you have a more clearer data to understand your experience and how that is playing out. In some depressive episode, either of this could become the prominent area that we are noticing. We could notice the shutting down, we could notice the intense negative emotion or the negative spiral. But the key message I want to pass on here is to understand that depression is an experience, and with all experiences, it can change.